Well, Dr. Coburn, as a lawmaker and as a practicing physician, what would be your diagnosis of our current healthcare system?
We've set up to treat chronic disease rather than to prevent it. That's number one. Number two, we're not involved personally many times in the cost of our health care. Number three is we now have about 50% to 55% of our health care controlled by the government, which has induced the private market to stop copying it, which leads to inefficiency, poor quality, and no transparency. The biggest way to fix it is to make us have some personal responsibility, change the paradigm back to we're going to prevent disease rather than treat disease. We'll still treat disease, but our goal emphasis has to be on prevention. And number three is to make sure you can be transparent, make a transparent decision before you purchase health care as to the quality and the price. And you can't do any of that now. And you have somebody else. We pay the insurance industry 30% to tell us what doctor to go to and what price we'll pay, rather than allowing a real market and a transparent market for us to see. And the greatest example of that is if you don't have insurance and you go to a hospital today, you get charged 2.5 times what you would as if you had insurance. Well, where else does that work in a true market-based economy where those with the least ability to pay get charged the highest price? It shouldn't be that way. And so we have this convoluted system that's based on the tax code that it says your employer can have a tax deduction for your health care, but you can't. And consequently, we have millions of people who are locked in a job, can't leave because they either have a health condition or a pre-existing illness that will keep them from getting insurance somewhere else, so they stay locked. So it's the complete opposite of a market-based healthcare system and a complete opposite of transparency, and it's very, very expensive.
And let's expand on that, if you would. Talk about the costs that we're incurring right now as a country and as individuals when it comes to our health care.
Well, individually, we in this country, we pay about 50% more than anybody else in the world for our health care. And our health care is great. Most of the innovation in the world comes from our private sector health care. But we should ask ourselves why it costs 50% more in this country to deliver a product. And the reason is there's not a transparency in the market.
How about as a country? What's it doing to our country?
Well, it's making us uncompetitive. We have a high burden for health care. Because we've emphasized on treatment instead of prevention, we're going to carry a heavier load in terms of costs. We have a less healthy young population because we've not concentrated on prevention. And the lack of prevention implies greater costs, but also implies less competitiveness, which means we're less able to grow our economy, we have less capital invested because we're spending more capital on healthcare. And so the best way to create opportunity for the future is to have a free flow of capital that's uninhibited by non-market oriented forces in healthcare. And right now it is inhibited because so many people, we're losing about 1% per year in the private market as far as health insurance because of the cost. Yesterday it was announced the consumer price index on healthcare rose 0.6%. The core rose 0.1%. So healthcare is rising 6 times last month as fast as everything else in the economy. Well, why is that? It's because there's no market forces to control it and to allocate the resource. So we can markedly improve quality, we can markedly improve service, and we can markedly lower price if we let market forces help us.
Now, you have proposed, along with Senator Burke, co-sponsor of the Universal Health Care Choice and Access Act. And I want to ask you about the word universal. We hear a lot of the words universal being thrown out now. How is this proposal, how is it different than a lot of the other proposals that people are floating right now?
This one says you have personal responsibility. You have to be accountable. The government will offer you a tax credit, but you have to buy your insurance, and here's the credit with which you can buy, and then you have to make choices. And you get to suffer the consequence of those choices in terms of how you purchase. The numbers that come out of that basically are the averages across the country of which you could buy family insurance. And it doesn't raise taxes across the board on anyone. In other words, it just redistributes the tax break we're giving to corporations now to everybody equally. And, and what it is universal access. Doesn't mean universal care. It means you have the access to money to buy care if you want to. The government can't make decisions for us based on personal and compassionate needs. Anytime we try to make the government do that, we fail. So what this says is we'll create an opportunity for everybody in this country to have health insurance for themselves. But they're going to have to contribute, they're going to have to participate, and they're going to have to make good decisions that are good for them if they want that benefit.